Alright, so we're continuing in our series on indices. In this instance, we're going to deal with rule number 9, rule number 10. I'll put 9 and 10 in one video, and then I'll put 11 and 12 in one video. Alright, I'll separate it a little bit. Alright, these videos shouldn't be too long. So let me start. Rule number 9. Rule number 9 simply says that AB to the power of n is equal to A to the power of n by B to the power of n. Straightforward. Can't get more straightforward than that. Some quick examples. Let me say 7 by 2. And this 7 by 2 is multiplication here now. And put it in brackets just to remove all doubt. 7 by 2 in brackets, all to be squared, right, is the same thing as 7 squared multiplied by 2 squared. Multiplication now. 7 squared is 49. 2 squared is 4. 49 by 4 is 196. If it wasn't sure, then you could look at it like this. You can say that 7 by 2 squared is the same thing as 14 squared. Yeah, 7 by 2 is 14 inside the brackets. And 14 squared is, guess how much? 196. End of discussion. So we can apply this rule even when we have quantities whose values are unknown. Right? We know that in maths we typically represent these using letters. Yes? So in that particular notation, we can say, for example, that let me say 6k to the power of 3 is equal to 6 to the power of 3 by k to the power of 3. 6 to the power of 3 is 216 k to the power of 3. Alright, 6k to the power of 3. Make sure everybody can see it properly. Yeah. Right. It applies also when you have negative powers. So let me say that you have k over 6 to the power. Ah boy, I'm jumping ahead of the game here now. Hold on. Let me say you have 6k to the power of minus 3. That is the same thing as 6 to the power of minus 3 by k to the power of minus 3. We will not simplify this for the time being. We will save that for a separate discussion, because all I want you to understand from this video is that a by b to the power of n is the same thing as a to the power of n by b to the power of n. Whether a and b are positive or negative, whether n is positive or negative. Yeah? So you leave that alone for the time being. 216k cubed, right? Let me make a proper 216 now. A 6 looking more like a B. Looking more like a 6 now, but it's kind of a little, you know, on the untidy side. So let me try and make it look a little tidy-ish. 216 by k to the power of 3. Much better. We'll leave it alone for the time being. Let us see. We have a letter and a number here. We have two numbers here. So how about two letters now? Let us say x, y to the power of 4 would simply be x to the power of 4 by y to the power of 4. And yes, if it was xy to the power of minus 4, it would be xy to the minus 4, which would be x to the minus 4 by y to the minus 4. Alright, as we said just now, we're going to leave that alone for the time being. We're not going to go further into, further simplification of this as a separate matter, which we'll consider separately. And that's it. That is your rule number 9. A multiplied by B, all in brackets to the power of n, is e to the power of n by, B to the power of n. And by the same token, rule number 10 is More or less the same thing as rule number 9. The only difference is that instead of multiplying, you're now dividing. So rule number 10 says that a over b to the power of n will be a to the power of n over b to the power of n. Again, we're leaving that just as is. We don't want to complicate matters unnecessarily. Yeah? Because I can also write that as a to the power of n by b to the power of minus n, which is true. But for the time being, we're going to stick to this here alone. We're going to leave the negative indices out for the time being. That is something that we could discuss in more detail. We could get into that into a little more depth when we practicing. And this is where, again, the difference between explaining and practicing something enters the picture. Right? We explain here. We could even refer to this as a type of study, in the sense that you listen to it and you think about it. But then you're practicing, and in the course of your practice, certain things would come up that we didn't necessarily deal with when we were explaining. Right? To explain this will clutter the explanation, and I'm trying as hard as possible not to do that. But when you're practicing, if you're taking this thing seriously, you might run into this at some point, at which point that would be an opportunity to learn, as a learning opportunity. But we're leaving that alone for now. Yeah? So we're sticking to simple things. A over b to the n is a to the n divided by b to the n. So again, simple examples. If we say if we say 2 over 3. Now, let me say 3 over 2. 3 over 2 or 2 over 3. 3 over 2 to the power of 4. That is 3 to the power of 4 over 2 to the power of 4. And if we have 3 over 2 to the power of minus 4, that is 3 to the power of minus 4 over 2 to the power of minus 4. That's it. You don't want it more than that. That's all you need. And of course, just as we did in the last case, we could use, well, we have numbers alone, so we could use letters alone, or we could use a combination of numbers and letters. So we could say, for example, that, let me see, 7 over h, 7 over h to the power of, let me say 2 is equal to 7 squared over h squared. We could say also that 7 over h to the power of minus 2 is equal to 7 to the minus 2 over h to the power of minus 2. Again, we're leaving this alone. We're not going to get into too much more depth here. That is something we can deal with another time. And then we're going to deal with letters alone now. So let us say we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M. M over N, no, we're using N here already. P, Q, R, S, R over S, T, T over V. Let me say T and V now. Or how about V and W? Alright, so let me say V over W to the power of 5 is equal to V to the power of 5 over W to the power of 5. And if we have V over W to the power of minus 5, we have V to the power of minus 5 over W to the power of minus 5, and we're done with that. That is as far as we go there. We're not going to go any further, which we can do and which we will do in other places, not here. V over W to the minus 5 is V to the minus 5 over W to the minus 5. that is as complex as you're going to get there. All right, so that is rule number 9. Rule number 10, anytime you have to deal with negative powers, do that in your practice. So in other words, I am giving you an incentive now to practice and to get into a little more depth into it. This is pretty straightforward. You could latch onto this, and from here you could get to here, 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 and you could get from here, you could get to here, and you could also get to here. But in each case here, there's another series of steps that you could take, taking into account your knowledge of what the negative index is. That is what I will leave for you to do as practice. If you need help, then you could find the help, or you could fight up with it on your own, or whatever it is. Right? I would deal with it as a separate matter somewhere else, but not right now. So that is it for rules number 9 and 10. We're going to deal with rules number 11 and 12 in the next video in our series on indices.